Hello, everybody. I hope you're having a good Thursday. It's been a while since I've been live on my platform. I'm checking to see if we are live. So, yes, there we are. I hope everybody's having a beautiful day. As you know, I work with women in relationships, dating, and matters of the heart. And one cause that has been so important to me has been helping lessen and also helping the victims of human trafficking. And often I have learned about what goes on. I even had a few friends who sang in the opera, who were representing the stories of the victims of human trafficking. I myself have sung for events that support raising fund to end human trafficking. And I got to know two beautiful women along the way, Sue Yeru and Sharon Denoa. Sorry, I got to get my glasses. Sharon Denoa. And I just love what these two ladies are doing. They are having an event in San Francisco to help end human trafficking. And I was very curious about what it's about, what needs to happen, where is it, how is it helping? And I asked if we could do a live so that I can introduce them to my community. Working with women, I come across often people who have been in really women, especially who have been in very, very difficult situations. And obviously, human trafficking is at the top of the list of what abuse actually can be. So this is so near and dear to my heart. So if any of you would be interested at the end, you can always direct message me and I will connect you with the right people. But I would like for you to get to know Sue and Sharon. So I would like to introduce these ladies right here by using this and doing this. So we have with us Sue Yeru, driven to motivate, create, and elevate, and Sharon Denoa, director of South Bay Coalition to End Human Trafficking. It's such an honor to be here with you, ladies. Thank you so much for accepting my invitation and being with me and coming to my communities so that my people can also get to know what a beautiful work you're doing. So with that, I would love for one of you ladies to say, what is It Takes a Village? Can you tell me more about the event?
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Raika. Thank you, Sharon, also for being here today. And thank you, all of you who are jumping on with us live this morning or evening, wherever you are in the world. Really, it's an honor to be here with you, Raika. And we really appreciate this opportunity to share this really dynamic event that we are putting on in San Francisco on December 6th at the Southeast Community Center in San Francisco. More information you can find on our website at www.ittakesavillage.sf.org. As you can see right there, right? You'll learn more about the 3 organizations that this fundraiser is supporting. And Sharon is representing one of those organizations. These are 3 women-led organizations throughout California, stemming from Santa Cruz up to our state capital. And they are doing really important work right there on the front lines to receive and work with and collaborate with survivors of human trafficking to bring them to a new space in their life. And Sharon's going to talk more about that. And our event is a rather unique fundraiser where it takes a village, right? We all know that phrase. We use it all the time. It's not new. And this event really epitomizes that phrase and that statement because we are three organizations coming together. So that right there creates a village. And so when you come into this event experience, we are presenting to you that sense of village. So when you walk in, you're greeted by the village folks, and they're going to point you in the direction to go shopping in this village, right? To the marketplace. All villages have a marketplace. So
Right.
you'll come and you'll do some shopping. You'll hear live music in the town square, and you'll be able to bid on some auction items. Of course, we'll have food and drink, libations and hors d'oeuvres. And then we're going to have this magnificent program. The magnificent program is going to kick off with none other than a fashion show. We will feature 2 designers in the evening. So we'll start off with 1 designer.
Wow.
And then we're going to hear from 3 really powerful speakers. Speakers in leadership in this anti-human trafficking space. And Sharon will share more about that experience. And this is really the heart of the village to me. This is the village square, the town square, the heart of it, the town hall moment, right? Where our village folks and friends and families coming together will learn what we can look out for, how we can support, what we need to do, how we can get more engaged and involved. And so then once we hear from all of these wonderful, incredible leaders, we're then going to finish off that show and that moment with our second designer. So we'll cap off the night with a fashion show finale. And then people can still linger and support and donate, because this is a fundraiser. So we want the donations, but we also want you to get that sense of involvement. You are involved in a village with these folks, the folks who have experienced the unimaginable, and the folks who are collaborating with these survivors towards more success for their life. And so I'm going to hand it off to my good friend Sharon. She is the director of this work, and she is really involved, engaged, changing lives. And I'm honored, Sharon, to call you my friend and my partner in this It Takes a Village.
Thank you, Sue, and thank you so much for having us here today to talk about this event. So Sue kind of beautifully laid out what you can expect when you come to the event on December 6th. What we're really hoping folks to think about is learn more about what we know is happening every day here in the Bay Area. It's really happening, in every state, in every community, every socioeconomic group. It just manifests in different ways. So the other piece is that no one agency, no one group really can tackle this issue alone. We really need to work together. One of the biggest pieces when we're doing outreach to different groups is they really think about the initial recovery of a survivor, when they're initially found. And so they really think, oh, well, law enforcement's doing that, or maybe there are, advocates who are there, and they are really crucial partners in this. But so much of the journey for many survivors is after that. So what happens afterwards? What are opportunities? What does that look like? How do you rebuild your life? What resources do you need so that you can lead the life that you choose to? And access the tools that you need. So our 3 organizations, Rising Worldwide, the South Bay Coalition, and 3 Strands Global, all have different programs that look at prevention as well as economic empowerment. And I think that really resonates also with so much of the work that you do, because a lot of that looks at, rebuilding healthy relationships. And even that includes healthy relationships in a work environment. It looks at making sure that we are creating opportunities for individuals who, have a lot of incredible skills, and they just need to learn how to leverage those skills. Prevention is also really early on where we start to identify different vulnerabilities. We know a lot of individuals who've been trafficked may have been involved in the foster care system. That's a huge vulnerability. Or one of the biggest vulnerabilities worldwide is poverty, especially for women.
Yeah.
So we know that those are different things that if we can start to address those vulnerabilities early on, we can create access to resources, which are protective factors. So we'll hear about the different programs agencies, have that are operating. And of course, this event is supporting those programs and directly supporting individuals with lived experience of trafficking, but also thinking more about within your own space, within your own sphere of influence, what impact can you make? You can raise awareness with the community that you have. You can have job opportunities. There's a lot of different things that folks can start to brainstorm and really engage with this issue.
Wow. Thank you, ladies. This is so wonderful. I was just getting goosebumps about just what you're doing, what this event is. Thank you. I really appreciate that. So I know when I first was learning about human trafficking, and it really hit me when I actually saw the opera that I saw, that depicted in detail what happens inside those homes or places where women are captive, and how actually some of them can even die from the amount of pressure that's on them, and abuse that happens. People hear about human trafficking on the news or in movies, or we hear about, the signs for the plane and such. But what is it? And is this really happening? Is it really that prevalent? Because I know it is, but I think sometimes because we're not in touch with that world, it can just look like a story to some of us. So can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, and it's really simplest kind of definition or form. Human trafficking really is when an individual is being exploited for labor, services, and this includes in the sex trade, so it can be commercial sex. And the exploitation is paired with the fact that they cannot leave. And that's where it becomes really difficult because sometimes, I think in the past we've seen images of an individual being physically forced to stay in a situation, but often trafficking is far more subtle. There's a lot of coercive factors. And that's when you start to see things like, individuals who may be coming here from another country. One coercive factor is to threaten their family back home or threaten their immigration status here. And so then the trafficker is using that to keep them in a situation where they're just being exploited, being harmed on a daily basis. You also have individuals, domestically, but who are born here, and they might look like a, boyfriend girlfriend relationship. But it becomes very abusive, and then that's the tool that the trafficker uses. They use somebody's love for them against them. And so that's also why it's so important when we talk about prevention to focus on healthy relationships. So you can start to see these signs early on. But trafficking, we've had survivors from really every part of the world, male and female. Trafficking does include labor trafficking, and it can be extremely harmful. Somebody is stuck in a situation. So in that way, sometimes we're coming across trafficking in our everyday life and we don't even realize it.
Right.
Or we may have a different lens. I think part of learning about trafficking is starting to see past our initial kind of impressions or our own biases that we have, where you may see somebody and you're like, well, she's choosing to be out here and dressing like that. Right. But you don't actually see what's happening behind the scenes. Or they should be lucky that they're here and earning any kind of money. Sometimes you hear these narratives that prevent us from really identifying individuals who really need the resources to get out of these situations.
Yeah. I'm so glad that you're talking about the narrative, because and I have to say there's a part of me that makes me feel so happy, because I have always my goal of being trauma informed, or like a dating and relationship coach with focus on trauma and inner child work and healing, has been to really stop what happens from the inception, because it is those vulnerabilities. And when you were saying foster care or relationships, it can come in different ways, and using somebody's love against them. Gosh, we see that, and I've often heard people make judgmental remarks like, well, she's asking for it, or, this is what she wants. And we really don't know what happens, not only within somebody, but also within their environment that they're living, and what can push someone to that extent. So thank you so much for talking about that. I'm curious if we can talk a little bit about what is collective impact. What does that mean? What is it?
Yeah, I can start us off. Collective impact is an idea that, again, kind of going back to what I said before, no one agency can do this alone, but we can have a common purpose and know that each of us fulfills a different role within our own larger purpose. So if we're looking to end human trafficking, knowing that, I don't need to do what every other agency is doing, but collectively, can we make an impact? When we come together and bring together these resources, how much stronger is that?
Right. I
want to add, that really just ties into the village concept, right? Organizations for years, obviously, have come together to find common ground rather than to look at this as a competitive experience, right? And there is, in industry, there's competition. This is not that. This is, let's come together, share our resources. And as I'm out there and networking and promoting this event, I'm hearing more and more of that from companies, from entrepreneurs, from business leaders, that it's less about being competitive and more about what is the impact we are all making. Our goal is the same, right? Our goal is to better the world, right? And so if we can share these resources and share our technology, and to an extent, obviously, but to share what we're all doing and build upon that and come together collectively, the power is so much stronger and the reach is so much broader. And so that's what we are doing, right? So we are going from Sacramento down to Santa Cruz with these 3 organizations.
Wow.
That you, again, will learn more about at our websites, and that will take you to their websites as well, so you can see a broader scope and voice of each of these organizations. So to have that, distance to come together in the center of San Francisco, that's what it really is all about.
I love that. Thank you so much for talking about that, Sue. I appreciate that. Now, I think this might be the heart, and also really the part that we can bring information to our community, because I think, again, it goes back to many are not aware that this is happening in our backyards, especially in the Bay Area. So can you tell us about a recent case here in the Bay Area?
Yeah, I mean, there's so many cases that are being identified every day. You may have seen headlines most recently about foreign nationals from Colombia and Venezuela. There were adult women who were being trafficked all over the Bay Area. So that means individuals were, setting up dates with these women to purchase sex and not realizing that they're actually being trafficked while they're here. They don't have the ability to leave. They are in active fear for their own selves and for their families. So that was one that was recently in the news. I think just yesterday there were some news articles. Often it is stories that you may see about an underage girl who is being trafficked. And again, it might be through a boyfriend. In those cases, I do want to point out that under state law, and under federal law, whenever a minor is being engaging in commercial sex, that is trafficking. You don't have to show any other coercion because they're a minor, you know. And so we have a lot of cases like that pop up every day. And while we see the news stories about certain communities, we need to keep in mind this happens everywhere, because vulnerabilities related to young people, they're prevalent everywhere. These kind of vulnerabilities. There are sometimes vulnerabilities in intersections that we see related to substance use, which we know we're seeing that in San Francisco. People are vulnerable, and so we need to be able to identify those vulnerabilities. Another really big case that labor trafficking is very prevalent in the Bay Area. You know, we have one of the largest metropolitan areas. People are coming from everywhere, and we have so many services that are being offered here and there. And when you have that great need, you also have individuals who are always trying to offer the lowest price for something. Just keep in mind, when you're getting the lowest price for something, somebody else might be catching that cost, right? So it comes in the form of the service industry. We've had individuals who work on construction sites, you know, for major hotels. They've been subcontracted out to these smaller subcontractors who are then exploiting workers. That was a very large case that we saw here in multiple counties. Agriculture, I think, is not surprising to know that individuals there are being exploited for labor. So it's not to overwhelm folks, to let them know that it's really happening, but it's just to really broaden our perspective, that really don't think about trafficking as something really far away that looks really different. It really is very much part of our everyday lives, because exploitation kind of goes hand in hand when we have a system that's focused on making money and prosperity. And so there are things that we can look for, and we can be really active consumers as well, and think more critically about how we, where we put our money, and how we engage in our community, in our village.
So basically what you're saying, Sharon, like in labor trafficking, or the individuals that we might be hiring and paying them, the money is not necessarily going to them. Somebody else is taking the money.
I mean, that's one situation. Sometimes you see the actual employer themselves is trafficking. So if it's a subcontractor, in one particular case, it was a subcontractor who was bidding for a job with a really large hotel to do all this construction work. And he got the lowest bid because he wasn't paying his workers anything. And, you know, he was keeping them literally locked in a warehouse at night and transporting them to and from the job site. And so, of course, he outbid everybody else, right? Because he was able to offer the lowest price. So in that particular instance, we want, you know, employers, if you have subcontractors, to really look through and be intentional. How are the individuals actually getting paid? You know, and when we purchase things in different industries, being mindful about how people are being paid. You know, I think there was a long time ago folks talking about making sure that when you give somebody a tip in certain industries, health and beauty industry, providing tips in cash, that was something that folks, you know, started as consumers being more intentional about, because employers are not allowed to keep somebody's tips. Right. That's against employment law. It doesn't mean it's trafficking. There's a fine line, but exploitation can become trafficking when someone cannot leave. So it's just important to kind of know that whole scale of seeing different pieces of exploitation, seeing what doesn't feel right in the workplace, and seeing if an individual cannot leave.
And when you say cannot leave, you mean physically being captive?
No, that's where also that coercive factor might come in. So they might be able to physically get up and leave, but what would happen to them if they left? Would their family back home be safe? Is there fear that they might be deported or reported to immigration? Those are the things that mentally might keep somebody in a situation. Or you have situations where they may have paid a certain amount of money to come to the US, and now their employer says, well, you need to pay me back. But I'm providing you with housing, so now you have to pay me rent for that. And I provide you with food, you have to pay me rent for that. Yeah. That's more a debt bondage situation where you can't ever pay off this debt. So it starts becoming a bit more nuanced. You know, in terms of being able to identify trafficking, usually we know what doesn't feel right. Really pay attention to things that don't feel right, and then know what you can do, which is we have a national human trafficking hotline,
Yeah.
888-3737-888, and we can put that up for folks too. And you can report those things. Don't keep paying attention to these signs, and you can reach out to organizations and learn more about how to identify trafficking. Hopefully that wasn't too much, but hopefully I just tried to paint a picture.
No, that is very good. That's very informative. Can you give us, so I think you kind of did, but we talked, I was just wanted to bring this up in case, what are typical situations of trafficking, and what I understand could be labor and it could be sex.
Yeah, I mean, there's no typical case in a sense, because there's so many different ways that trafficking manifests. I gave a few examples. Certainly, if you see an individual engaging in commercial sex, so they appear to be selling sex, if there's somebody who's controlling their money or controlling who they make dates with, that's pretty indicative of trafficking. If they're a minor, that's certainly trafficking. Those are pretty common instances that we see being identified throughout the Bay Area. When it comes to labor, it can be the debt bondage situation. We see this healthy beauty industry, but we can also see this in the service industry. One of the first cases in San Francisco was in a restaurant where young Chinese nationals were being kept in a restaurant and working all day instead of going to school like they were being told. And that's 20 years ago. But that's a very specific case, but we see it happening in different service industries. I mentioned construction, agriculture. There's really a lot of different ways that labor trafficking can manifest, which is why it's harder to raise awareness about it, because it happens in our everyday life. So you have to be able to really start to take inventory of how are the workers being treated here. I went to a restaurant that was then later exposed for trafficking. I remember as a young girl going into this restaurant with my family and knowing that I was like, the women who work here are very, very unhappy, and just feeling that. That case ended up being exposed because the trafficker ended up killing one of the women. And it ended up hitting headlines, if folks are familiar with the Reddy case here in Berkeley.
Yeah.
So, there's different signs that folks can start to pick up on, and just being like, that's the village idea, is that we need to reconnect to how we engage with each other.
Which brings me back to this event that you are hosting on the 9th, correct?
No, December 6th.
6th, sorry.
Yeah.
Dyslexia. So on December 6th, that's what this event is for. Bringing not only awareness, but also because all of this takes funds. This is something that requires resources to be able to fight. So really grateful that you're explaining all of this. I'm curious if you can, speak about, where do survivors come from? Do they have all similar backgrounds? Like, what can you tell us a little bit about that?
I mean, it's really diverse. We've had survivors identified from pretty much every continent in the world. So, and in terms of age ranges, there's definitely adult survivors of trafficking, and minors. We see minors who are being trafficked for sex, but increasingly there are more cases that we're seeing, and I think that was being highlighted in the media, of child labor, right? We were hearing more about child labor cases. So it really just, there's no one face, which is why sometimes awareness raising is difficult. Sometimes people want to look for something specific.
Yeah.
And survivors look like everybody, right? So they can be, it's the vulnerabilities that make some of the difference. So being able to identify some of these vulnerabilities that we've been talking about, and learning more of the red flags. Certainly if you see an individual who doesn't look like they're being fed well, or they don't have possession of personal items like their money or their identification documents, or they have somebody who's kind of speaking for them. When you start to see indications like this, then those are red flags to keep looking for more. And it could be a lot of different things. I mean, certainly somebody in that situation, that might be domestic violence. and that individual needs assistance for that. But if you start to pay attention, it might be something else as well.
Gotcha. Wow. Thank you so much. Can you also, I love how I'm being educated on this. What are the vulnerabilities of trafficking? Because you mentioned like their families can be, they're worried about their families. Can you tell us a little bit about the vulnerabilities of trafficking?
I mean, worldwide, the vulnerability is going to be poverty and economic disenfranchisement, but it really relates to any kind of marginalization. So when we have communities that are marginalized and it's harder for them to access resources, then you have vulnerabilities there. So in that line of thinking, we know that individuals from the LGBTQ plus community are disproportionately trafficked and vulnerable. We know that when we specifically talking about sex trafficking, Black African American girls are disproportionately trafficked, Native girls as well, and young men as well. I shouldn't just say women. We do know that young men are trafficked, sex trafficked as well. Foster care, I mentioned that, but also youth who've been involved in the juvenile justice system. That kind of vulnerability impacts because they have limited access then to opportunities in the future. You mentioned, so different marginalized groups, immigration. So anybody who is foreign born, that can be a factor there. So really think about the inequities that we have in society. And that's probably the easiest way to think about vulnerabilities. When you see inequities, and that's why gender does come into play. We know that there is gender inequity. Women have sometimes limited access to the same opportunities. And when you have that kind of power dynamic, it makes a difference. I had mentioned substance use earlier, and that's an intersection as well as in vulnerabilities. Sometimes traffickers actually use substances to control somebody. You can have mentioned poverty. I'm trying to think of kind of bigger picture ones, but I think that kind of sets the stage if you really just think about marginalization.
Yeah. Okay. I really appreciate knowing that. And this is where I think all of this information now coming together is what the point of this conversation is, that what can we do to prevent trafficking?
Do you want to start us off soon? Then I'll go into specifics as well.
Oh.
Well, the first thing you can do is come to this event, right? This is a great way to have a soft entry into this village experience, right? And really just listen and engage with these folks, these leaders, like Sharon. Sharon will be speaking as well, and introducing these other leaders to learn nuances, all of which Sharon has been sharing with us today, to recognize red flags, to make those phone calls, to do the outreach, but to really just be a part of this experience. You can do some research on our website. We've got a lot of, we've got a lot of video content provided from these three organizations as well. Learn about what they're doing, learn about how they're impacting legislation, and making changes there, because that's important too. And how you can contribute. You know, Sharon oversees 30 different agencies who are providing services for folks, right? Everywhere from legal services to mental health services to housing, right? And so these are basic human needs. And this is what Sharon's organization, the South Bay Coalition to End Human Trafficking, is providing to human beings who need support. And her organization and these 30 agencies need our support, need our village to come together and make a donation, make a contribution. $25 goes a long way, right? And that's what this event is about. We have Giving Tuesday coming up on November 28th. That is a great opportunity to tap into your organization, your company, and to do a collective, again, come together as a village with your colleagues, with your teammates, and raise some money and put it towards this event and these 3 organizations, that then trickles down to these 30 agencies that then supports a monumental group of people who really need basic human needs.
Right. I love that. What is at the moment being done in stopping human trafficking?
Actually, I mean, there's really a huge movement to end human trafficking. We've been building for over 10 years when we saw the Trafficking Victim Protection Act passed at the federal level. And now our states are all kind of adjusting systems, passing laws. There's been a lot of legislation passed to try to help us identify survivors, ensure that we're not criminalizing survivors. Our coalition also does a lot of advocacy for survivors who are being wrongly criminalized. So there's a lot to be done, kind of full spectrum. We work with law enforcement partners. We, as Sue mentioned, I work with 30 different agencies. We partner actively to make sure our folks falling between the cracks, can we identify individuals who might need different resources? And we're at a point where we're really seeing the need to build more in terms of economic empowerment. What are the opportunities for an individual who's had this experience to build their own lives? And so really having folks think more about how can create opportunities and pathways for success.
I love that. And that brings me to my next question then is like, what kind of support do survivors need to move on?
Yeah, I mean, on average, we know that our service providers will tell you that they work with survivors on average for 2 years, and that's with intensive case management, therapy, helping them in terms of housing stability. When I keep mentioning poverty, housing stability is integrally tied to that. And we know in the Bay Area how expensive housing is. So they're really actively needing support in emergency stage, when they're stabilizing, and then when they're transitioning to the life that they want. Sometimes it's access to education, or we've had survivors who want to get certified in as estheticians. So it really runs the gamut in terms of what kind of resources individuals need. A number of survivors want to be entrepreneurs. They want to not be their own employer. They want to have that independence. So Rising Worldwide and 3 Strands have support programs that focus actually Rising. The jewelry you'll be purchasing is from entrepreneurs with lived experience.
Wow.
So individuals who are taking their love and their passion and creating it into a business, turning that into a business. So it really just depends on the individual. So there is intensive support that you see agencies providing, and then there's so much more that many of us can be offering in terms of creating those pathways and access.
I love that. And in this moment, I think you touched on this, but just to make sure I haven't dropped anything, because I think this is important for folks to know, is what is being done to prevent trafficking?
There's actually a lot being done. We have a state law that requires human trafficking to be included in school curriculum in junior high and in high school. The biggest gap, though, is that there wasn't funding provided. So if you have a child or a young person who's in school, maybe tapping into your school district and seeing, are you guys including, it's AB 1227. You can always reach out to me. I'll include my contact info to see, are they including this information? Because it's not just learning about human trafficking. When we talk about young people learning about human trafficking, they need to learn about what is a healthy relationship, because it's those little pieces, and it ties so much into what you already do. That there's that connection there, because when you learn about healthy relationships, you are protecting somebody from those vulnerabilities that we see that can manifest into exploitation. So there's stuff being done in terms of that prevention, but economic empowerment is prevention. When we equip individuals with the ability to live their own lives independently, that is one of the biggest protections we can offer. So, it's one of the biggest gaps. California in general does not fund prevention. Prevention is the first thing that gets their funding cut. And it's the hardest to push for because we're always just triaging. We're always figuring out, let's fund a crisis, which we absolutely need to do. But we need to keep in mind that we have to get to prevention too.
Wow, that is so true. I'm all about foundational work, because if we can fix the foundation and the core stuff, then from there we start cleaning up events that can be prevented. So this event on the 6th, which is happening in San Francisco, our beautiful city, which I'm very in love with. Everybody who knows me knows I'm a big, big San Francisco girl. So in our beautiful city of San Francisco, there is going to be an event where we can come together and help with resources and meet, actually, probably some of the victims, get to know them so that we know that they are actually living in our backyard, and give a hand to each one of us, give a hand to end this terrible, terrible thing that's happening. So tell us about the event. I know, Sue, you told us what's going to be there, and that's really exciting. But what can we expect? What is the expectation? So let's say I get my ticket, I come there, and then what?
You're going to experience the village, as I mentioned, right? You can go shopping and support survivors right then and there.
Lovely.
You can make a donation directly to each of these 3 organizations. They will each have a presence there, and you can go visit with them and learn more about each of these organizations. You can help us raise money. Let's put our dollars to what these 3 organizations are doing.
Right.
And just right, that educational point as well.
Yeah.
And you can also engage with these folks who are doing this monumental work and are leading the path. And something that I think is really, really important to do is to say thank you. To say it really is just the simplest thing, and it goes so far. Is to approach these folks and say, thank you so much. Thank you so much for doing the work that you do, because you are changing lives, and you have maybe gone through this system and through this experience that is horrific. And I applaud you for coming through, and for now coming through for other human beings. These are all human beings.
Right.
And just to applaud them and thank them and to be there to support them, I think that is a gift.
Right.
And then, of course, I'm happy for you to make donations and to raise money with us, because obviously that is a driving point to this work. Right, to those 30 agencies, and to this work, to providing so much. Again, I'm just keep repeating myself. Basic human needs for someone that is ready to thrive, and let's give them that opportunity. Those are the folks that really need our support.
Right. I was thinking about, and I know we're this conversation is getting a little longer, but it is a very important conversation, and I really hope that folks who are listening can appreciate the education that has been during this call. So thank you for who's with us listening to the very end. I personally want to thank you from the bottom of my heart, because it is so important. And one thing that came to my mind as I was listening to you, beautiful ladies, is quite often when we walk around San Francisco and we talk to our friends, what is the first thing we hear? San Francisco has changed so much. San Francisco is not the same as before. San Francisco is this. San Francisco is that. There's a lot of drugs. There's a lot of homeless. But this event is actually one way that we can all come together to actually put our money where our mouth is, right? If we're nagging about our city being so exploited, well, this is it. it is being exploited, and our city is changing, and we're seeing that, you know, so much so much can be done, but we're always waiting for somebody else to do the work for us. And I think that, you know, I have been a San Francisco resident for 23 years, and I've seen the ups and the downs in the 23 years that I have lived in the city. And I really feel that we are at a point where each one of us, instead of nagging and pointing fingers and blaming the system and the government, and I'm not saying those things are not true, by the way, but what I'm saying is we can do that and go to the coffee shops and just nag and be upset, or we can buy a ticket, go to an event that's actually doing something for our city, doing some good, you know, knowing, and I'm going to be a good citizen doing what Sharon just taught us. Sharon, where is the money going that we're going to be spending?
It's going to go to one of our 3 organizations which directly help survivors. So it might go to help in terms of case management or therapy. A lot of our survivors, if they're foreign born, they need an immigration attorney to help them figure out, you know, what are their options here. It might help them, support them with the fees associated with a T visa, for instance. So it has a really direct impact. Sometimes it's actually money that goes to the security deposit for an apartment. This might be the first apartment for a survivor that they've had, something that's really the first time for them, just them. So when we talk about this funding, we're making sure it has a direct impact.
I love that. I love that. Okay. So here's the thing. When I learned, because I was talking to Sue yesterday, 2 days ago, and I was like, well, how much are the tickets? Because I hadn't asked, you know, it was such a no-brainer for me that, oh, of course, you know, of course we're going to be there. And I asked her, and she said $100, correct? And I was like, what? That's it? That's all? That's like less than the grocery bill that I pay. And I live by myself. Thank you, the world now knows. But you know, it's like that is really peanuts if we all come together and each one, and I'm not undermining people who are going through a financial hardship. My absolute respect to you. I totally understand times can be hard, but for many, many, many of us, $100 is really just 2 weeks of grocery. I mean, if we're living really, really, you know, calculating, and that is something that is so small that we can do a simple step, an easy step, because we have 3 organizations that takes care of the details, takes care of how these folks are, you know, the survivors are being helped. So I think $100 is so worth saving people just like us, humans, women just like us. I'm a foreigner, you know, I mean, well, I'm from Iran, so I could be one of those vulnerable people, you know, and spending $100 to save women, children. I saw on your flyer that 52% of victims are children. If I'm not mistaken.
There's some fine line there that is present in that what you saw.
Yeah, tell me.
It is a study that was done, and it was a certain amount and a certain demographic and all of that. So it is not of all human trafficking. It is of what this one organization presented.
Okay.
I have it in front of me. I would read it right off the bat. It is on our website.
Right.
Yeah, that right under the human trafficking facts is the facts there.
This one right here.
Yeah, correct.
Okay. I really appreciate that, because I think that, you know, that clarification really important for me. I have 2 nieces myself, and I'm always, always, always worried. And I'm always like on the watch for like making sure that, you know, they're okay and they're with us and we're, you know, our eyes on them. so I really appreciate you saying this. So what people can do, if you go to the link that's on the site, it takes a village, sf.org. It takes a village, sf.org, to purchase your tickets. And one thing that you can do as a community, or at least my community, is please tell your friends, because every single ticket counts. Every single ticket counts. You will be surprised that even if each one of you bring one friend or tell one friend, even if you can't come, maybe your friend can come. If you can tell one friend and that one friend purchases the ticket, it is going to go to people who really, really would appreciate that. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to offer another opportunity. So we have folks from out of town and folks who are not able to join us for the physical event. And so what they are doing is they are being an advocate, and they are making a purchase or making a donation towards a free ticket, and they are donating that free ticket to someone else, to those folks who may not be able to afford that $100, but we want them there. So that is another opportunity to join our village, right? And pass it forward. So if you cannot join us at the event, we encourage you to buy a ticket for someone else who you know can, or you can donate that ticket as well. And we will find someone for sure who we would love to bring to this event. So yes, we're happy to have you share and bring friends, come as a collective, make it a night out, date night, or ladies night out, or friends night out, and be part of this village. It's not, an ordinary sit down dinner. This is an experience. So, come have an experience with us and make a difference while doing that.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. Is there any last minute, anything that any of you ladies would like to add before we wrap it up?
Just want to say that, this issue is a big issue, but it's something that anybody can make an impact on. And we really hope to see folks on December 6th and see you as partners. So we really look forward to meeting with you and seeing what we can do together.
Okay. I love that, Sharon. That really is what it's all about. Advocacy, partnership, being a neighbor, and being here and joining us. Meet these folks. Come and congratulate Sharon. Come congratulate her on the work that she does every day. This is very, very extreme work that is important and changing lives. I know I keep saying the same thing, but it is really true. And these folks like Sharon and her team and the other organizations we're supporting that night, they could really use us all to be there and say, hey, thank you. Thank you. Thank you for changing lives.
Yeah. Yeah. All righty. Well, I think we have covered, everything. I want to make sure that, I cover all the information that those of you who are watching can have. So the event is going to take place in San Francisco on December 6th. To get your tickets, please go to ittakesavillage.sf.org. It takes a village, sf.org. And if you see any cases that you feel, it's suspicious, there is a hotline where you can call. It's open 24/7. It's both in English and Spanish, 888-373-7888. So you can also have that number. And I really hope every single one of you is going to be there. If you have any questions, if anything that came up today you're interested in, if you want to be more a part of this, you want to get in touch with Sue or you want to get in touch with Sharon, please, those of you who are on my platform, reach out to me via DM. I'm more than happy to connect you with either one of the ladies. And Sue and Sharon, do you want to also share how they can get in touch with you, since there are folks watching on your platforms as well?
Sure, thank you. And through ittakesavillage.sf.org on our contact page, that will go directly to both Sharon and I. So that's another route. That's very simple. It's all in one spot. In this spot, you can make a donation. You will learn about the organizations. You can email us and get in touch with us. You can buy your ticket. Did I say that already? You can buy 2 tickets and you can make a donation, all on this website. So don't forget to get your tickets.
All righty, exactly. Get your
Sharon,
tickets. Sharon, is there anything you would like to say about how they can get in touch with you, or does that cover it all?
That's probably the easiest way. Yeah, go to our website, contact page. We both get those emails directly. We look forward to, hearing from you.
Very
and seeing you on December 6th. Join us. Join our village.
December 6th in San Francisco. I believe it's from 6 to 9, correct?
Yes.
All right. Very good. All righty. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Thank you for lending your time to me. I really appreciate you on behalf of Dating with Confidence. Thank you.
Thank you, Reika. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much.
Yeah. All righty. Have a good day, everyone. Bye.
Thank you.